Hello and welcome to my video, Crusader anti-MGTOW challenge. As my last video took me sort of months because I got busy and I read a bunch of books, I'm going to try and do this one live. So we will see how it goes.
Oh my gosh, apparently there's a MGTOW who has a challenge for the anti-MGTOW community. Oh no, I'm so scared. We're all gonna die. Anti-MGTOW can't come up with a logical argument.
Yeah, I think it's time to put this dumb myth that many MGTOW hold to rest. Watch this response video where I prove that anti-MGTOW can rise up to any challenge MGTOW can throw at us. Here is my response to your challenge, MGTOW. Challenge accepted.
This video, I'm not going to edit Crimson's video, just add in extra
Good
stuff.
morrow, ladies and gents. It is I, the Challenged Crusader, your favorite anti-MGTOW commentary channel, here with another video. Now, in today's video, I'll be responding to the Anti-MGTOW Challenge, a video created by a MGTOW YouTuber known as Gynocuck the Anti-MGTOW. In his video, he is asking for anti-MGTOW to make a compelling argument against MGTOW. There's a saying called "Be careful what you wish for," and I think Gyno will have a better understanding of the significance of this phrase by the end of this video.
Oh, do not hold your breath. Do not hold your breath.
Don't worry, Gyno, if you want a challenge you will get. I always enjoy debating the MGTOW community. To me, it is an opportunity to improve my commentary and learn more about the other side. It is important for anti-MGTOW to accept these challenges because it gives us a free platform to share our ideas. As I stated in all my videos, I am only here to criticize MGTOW arguments and have a discussion. I do not wish any harm or vicious attacks upon other MGTOW. To keep this video short, I will be responding to clips and paraphrasing what he says. I also challenge anti-MGTOW and MGTOW to create and share their counter-arguments in the comments section below. Before I give my argument, let's first respond to the video that Gyno has created.
Hello and welcome to my video, the Anti-MGTOW Challenge. The challenge is very simple: to present a compelling anti-MGTOW argument, ideally based on reality. Secondly, I have never heard, seen or read a compelling anti-MGTOW argument.
Alright, I will gladly give you a logical anti-MGTOW argument based on facts and reason. I will say that just because you ask for something, that doesn't mean you will get, depending on the situation. Now, my first question is, what do you define as a compelling argument? Is it an argument that will change your position, or a logical argument that calls into question your views? I do also question if you were able to even accept my argument. Because already you say that you want an argument based on reality from anti-MGTOW.
Yes, asking for an argument based on reality is extremely complicated and requires much deliberation.
Which to me seems to imply that you believe anti-MGTOWs are incapable of having a realistic argument, which is an untrue generalization.
False. Present some evidence.
The reason why I think you believe this is because MGTOW tend to believe all people act a certain way. Such as the "all women are like that" phrase I keep hearing, and you haven't even bothered to mention.
Okay, just deny all of world history and biology. When we use the phrase like "all women are like that," if we say like "all women are gold diggers," women are attracted to money and resources. This is a factor of nature, reality. It's like saying men are attracted to attractive women.
There are always exceptions in every group. Second, what do you define reality as?
Reality, what is objectively true, independent of any one person. However, we can use multiple sources to confirm what reality is.
Are we talking about what MGTOW consider as reality, or just what is objectively true? A majority of my anti-MGTOW arguments are on the basis that MGTOW isn't reality, that MGTOW isn't real. Anyways,
That's his opinion. He's failed to prove this in any single video.
Argument I give you will be based off, again, facts and reason. What I hope is that you will be able to understand that. Now, as you all know, I am very critical when people are using their personal experiences in their arguments because
Okay, listen, he just said about using personal experience within his arguments. That's very important.
most of the time they use their personal experience to make a fallacious or irrelevant claims in their arguments. Now, just because you haven't found any or many compelling pieces of anti-MGTOW arguments doesn't mean you haven't heard a good one. Maybe the reason why you can't find a compelling argument from anti-MGTOW is because maybe you just can't accept what they have to say. As already at the start of this video, you say that there are no good arguments, and you haven't even bothered to explain why.
I did actually explain why, and I used atheism and religion as an example. I said, whilst I've been investigating religion for sort of 10-20 years, I've never heard a good pro-religious argument. The same way I have never heard a good anti-MGTOW argument. And remember, the vast majority of the population are not identifying as MGTOW, so when they hear about it, quite often, especially if they're men, they'll make an argument.
Second, the other reason why you don't hear many good anti-MGTOW arguments is that there really isn't a lot of people who know or care about MGTOW. MGTOW is still a very new thing in the grand scheme of things. MGTOW is still a very new idea and concept, and it's still being discovered.
This is somewhat true. There's questions on the date, but let's just put a date. Let's say it's 10 years old. The anti-feminists attempted to debunk MGTOW, and then they just got roundly destroyed because of the nature of reality. It is a fair point that the anti-identifying MGTOW community is small. However, the anti-MGTOW as such community is much larger.
Now, and because of that, this thus explains why it is so hard to find a compelling anti-MGTOW argument. Simply, there is just not enough people who are aware of what MGTOW is. MGTOW is already a small community, and the group of anti-MGTOWs is even smaller than that.
Okay, again, broadly speaking, this is true, but unfortunately, he's just lost in essence what I was saying. I was just saying, I have not heard a compelling anti-MGTOW argument. It really is that simple.
Way smaller.
MGTOW are just like feminists. This video is a year old, when it was quite popular to say MGTOW are like feminists. So I might start skipping sections because this is incredibly boring. And it's like, have you actually analysed it?
If someone is accurately comparing MGTOW to feminism, that demonstrates they have analyzed MGTOW because they are making comparisons which require some knowledge of MGTOW. Maybe this is why I'm told not to answer rhetorical questions.
Completely and utterly misses the point, because he wasn't privy to the conversations a year ago. Feminism is so big, got so many different groups, but the point I was making, if you actually bothered listening, was the claims. So if MGTOW claim women have more rights than men, feminists claim men have more rights for women. Which one of these is true? Which one of these are reality? If MGTOW claim men have no reproductive rights, and feminists claim we've got no reproductive rights, which claim corresponds with reality? That's the point I was making.
Then he tries to disprove how MGTOW is not like feminism because he claims that gynocentrism has apparently existed unlike the patriarchy. Really? Okay. To me, it seems like you are mixing the argument MGTOW is the opposite of feminism with MGTOW is like feminism. When people say MGTOW is like feminism, they are trying to break the illusion that MGTOW is this perfect idea, or they are trying to point out flaws that exist in the MGTOW community. This analogy is a creative and engaging way to make a point. patriarchy has and does exist, depending on how you define it.
Again, this is somewhat true.
Now, if we're talking about a group of people that oppress women as a patriarchy, then yes, that does exist today. The easiest example of a patriarchy existing is in Saudi Arabia. The government is literally ran by all males, and women have limited rights.
Yeah, so here he purposely pretends to be a retard. Now listen very carefully. So he clearly mentioned Islamic countries at this point.
For example, women must get permissions from their father to travel. It is stupid to deny the existence of patriarchy. It is
I was talking about Western countries. You know, the countries where we live?
absolutely stupid. Now, then you go on to say how gynocentrism has existed for thousands of years, and then you give chivalry as an example of how gynocentrism exists because apparently chivalry caters to women. Your terrible evidence just shows how weak this argument of a gynocentric society is. It's honestly just a stupid conspiracy theory. Chivalry is an altruistic idea of helping the weak. It does not call for putting the woman as the top priority in your life, but rather it is to help the poorest of the poor. A man following chivalry would help a poor man getting beat up first before helping a noblewoman who lost her ring or whatever. This is because the poor man is more in need than a woman. Chivalry is not even relevant today, as not all men are encouraged by society to do it. I would argue that the opposite. I would argue that society is pushing the opposite of this. With popular culture, there are songs about banging a bunch of women. Modern culture is promoting using women for sex. Now, it doesn't sound like a gynocentric society to me.
Chivalry. Now let's first comment on why doesn't Crimson understand anything about history. Now, I'm going to speculate that it's because his version of history was heavily indoctrinated with feminism. So, whilst I'm going to pick a bias source, muhaha, gynocentrism.com, let's have a look when some of these books were written. Oh, look, they was all written like over 100, if not 200 years ago. I reckon they're biased with a lot of what a lot of MGTOW thought. Fucking retard. There's so many books you can pick. So firstly, what you need to do, Crimson, if you want to be so intellectually honest, you need to read all these books. Now, I don't need to read them because I know basic history. Let's just pick one. So 1818. I'm going to say that again. 1818, over 200 years ago. The main ingredient in the spirit of chivalry, second in force only to the religious zeal of its professors and frequently predominated over it, was the devotion to the female sex, and particularly to her of whom each knight was selected as the chief object of his affection, of his nature, so exaggerant and unbounded as to approach to a sort of idolatry. So basically you can read on and read on, and you can read all the different things, but basically through all the different sources, all the different books, chivalry grew out of its original concept to protecting women. Because people say like, oh, we live in a man's world. Whilst that is broadly true, it's like, well, what are men doing? Who are they protecting? So I strongly suggest you start educating yourself and reading. Like there's so many different books. I wouldn't read this one. This is done by Peter Wright himself. So when he does a meta study and he condenses all the books he's read into one book, that's obviously going to be super biased. So I probably wouldn't read this extremely well sourced book with facts and history, and I wouldn't read that. Don't read that, Crimson. No.
Now, again, even if let's just say that, for example, gynocentric, like let's just say chivalry is relevant. Even if it's relevant, again, going back to this definition, it doesn't really matter. Chivalry is about respecting and helping people who are the weakest. Now, if gynocentrism has existed for thousands of years, then why has it not been mentioned by historical experts in textbooks, for example?
That's like arguing, why didn't 1,000 years ago, why didn't they write about cancer? Why didn't they write about disease? Why didn't they write about all the various things that we now currently understand?
If you have no credible or reliable source, which you don't, that has endorsed this idea, it calls into question whether this said idea is even valid.
This is an appeal to authority and an appeal to academia. This is also an appeal to popularity. Just because lots of people don't follow something doesn't mean that it's invalid at all. As I demonstrated with the arguments about cancer. Well, they didn't write about cancer 1,000 years ago. I guess no one died of cancer. I guess no one died of multiple complicated diseases. I bet no one had any genetic defects.
At least the feminists, even the radical feminists can do better than you. At least they can actually prove something such as patriarchy. At least that they can prove it exists. The only thing you have proven is your lack of understanding for what chivalry is, and you not only make a weak argument, but you're twisting reality of what chivalry is to push your insane narrative.
So, as we can see, Crimson has just really embarrassed himself. Like, it's just so embarrassing that he's just so historically, completely and utterly illiterate. Now, the reason why Crimson cannot accept reality is because he would have to admit he's gynocentric. He would have to admit he's got a blind spot. He'd have to admit he's got bias. And he just simply cannot be that skeptical.
Okay, so you want a challenge, right? Well, I'm going to give you a challenge right now. I'm going to show and prove how MGTOW is like feminism. Now, both groups believe their gender are currently victims of a powerful sexist force.
Yeah, because the government doesn't have any power over men whatsoever.
MGTOW believe in gynocentrism, which basically is the idea that society is all catering to women, and radical feminists believe that there is a patriarchy in the West that is currently trying to oppress women.
See, here we can hear Crimson use the word feminists believe in the Western world they're currently being oppressed by a patriarchy. However, earlier, when he was talking about he started talking about patriarchies, he was talking about the Islamic world. So here we can clearly see he's been incredibly dishonest. So he knows when I was talking about feminism and the patriarchy, I was clearly talking about the Western world where feminism actually exists. There's no feminism in the Islamic world, is there?
That is the radical feminist definition, that there is a patriarchy in the West. Now, the counter to both of these arguments is that men and women have rights and protections, and neither of these people has shown any reliable theory to prove that there is a gynocentric society that has even existed, or some sort of Western mythical patriarchy. Now, also, both groups have animosity towards the other gender. Some feminists are attacking a man's masculinity, such as certain famous razor commercials. And some MGTOW have made videos calling all women whores, sluts, whatever. And there's other hate comments towards women like, I hate my mother, or dumb stuff like that. Now, furthermore, both groups have people who are selfishly looking out for their interests of their own group.
That is human nature.
Some of the radical feminists are focusing only on women's rights and giving women as many privileges as possible, while
Yes, and those rights get endorsed by the government and actually materialize within reality. Like, reproductive rights.
failing to understand some of the struggles that men face.
Oh, and do we believe this is accidental, a lie by omission, or do we believe this is on purpose, as it's been going on for over 100 years?
And MGTOW, some of the MGTOW, only care about what happens to their men And they seem to even lack empathy for women, which is honestly just sad. A prime example of this is
Yes. So some men are only looking out for other men. Now, when we're talking about men and women, we're talking about billions of people. If we just stick to the Western world, there's what, a billion? Between Europe and America, there's a billion people. I think looking out for the interests of, let's say there's half a billion men or half a billion women, looking out for the interests of half a billion is more than enough.
when I criticize Square Peg, a MGTOW YouTuber, for saying he only cares about his fellow brother men. And I can make endless connections, but I think you get the point.
There's an extremely weak point. Why should you not have self-interested groups? That's the whole point. Women have had a government state enforced group. Women are naturally extremely collectivist. Just trying to get any men to help other men is good. Telling other men basic information to keep them out of possible harm or trouble or imprisonment, that is a good thing.
Here. Now, we're going to move on to what else he has to say. And he goes on to say that men and women cannot be equal. If a woman, if a man can get beat up by white knights for slapping a woman, and that if it was a man who was getting slapped, no one would do anything. Is kind of what I'm getting from what he was saying. And he thinks that if women are equal, then they should be able to take a slap. And apparently, this is to prove that women are somehow not equal. Now, your vague example of a white knight defending a woman who gets slapped does not really prove anything. It just shows that there's men who are willing, good men who are willing to defend a woman from an attack and disrespect if you slap the woman for no reason.
Here Crimson proves without a doubt he is extremely gynocentric. So what I was saying is, if a man was to hit a woman, he would be attacked by white knights. If a woman attacked a man in public, no one would do anything. You wouldn't see white female knights come out attacking the woman. All the men would do nothing. Probably loads of people would laugh. They'd probably film it, put it on YouTube.
They could still argue that men and women are equal. And
Oh, and also he says that good men would protect a woman. He never really explains how or why they are good, apart from they're white knights and gynocentric.
that he was another white knight was saying that he was defending a woman's right to be respected like a man. Not all guys who beat you up for not all guys who beat you up for slapping a woman are a white knight. Now,
I don't know where he learnt gymnastics, but he needs to go into the Olympics. If you slapped a woman and then some man beat you up, you can assume that they're all white knights. And also, what Crimson probably doesn't realise, he probably doesn't get out a lot, we can see this behaviour across the entire world. If I went to China, slapped a woman round the face, white knights would beat me up. If I went to Germany, slapped a woman round the face, I would get beaten up. And again, we can see the inverse. If I went to Ethiopia and a black woman slapped me around the face, I don't think anyone would do anything.
how someone treats others really depends on their character and values, and it's not fair to say that all people in society are always going to act a certain way.
It's the trouble when someone doesn't want to use generalizations, even though they are true. So generally, Crimson is usually quite a smart guy, but on this occasion he's being fully retarded, trying to butcher his own redundant point.
Just because there are two genders that are not treated the same does not deny their inherent equality. If I applied your bad logic, then I could say that blacks are not equal to whites because black people were once enslaved. So because they were treated differently, therefore they are not equal.
We are talking about biology. Men and women are not equal. This is a fact of reality.
I mean, that just is so illogical and dumb.
If you think I'm wrong, test it yourself. I invite you to test it. Let's see if your views hold up to reality or not.
Fucking what? Yeah, I don't think it's a really smart idea to be advocating for violence on YouTube. My advice to you, my fellow viewers, is to not follow Gyno's advice, because you shouldn't be a jerk to people to prove a dumb argument. I don't even need to do a real-life demonstration to prove my point, because I use something that some MGTOW...
I'm going to cut him off. The thing is, it was a joke, but it's a thought experiment and a joke. Because again, the saying, put your money where your mouth is. He knows, you can hear it in his voice, if he was to slap a woman around the face, one-nights would beat the shit out of him. And he just doesn't want to admit it. Instead, he wants to do some gymnastics, he wants to jump through some hoops. Well played.
seem to lack. It's called, wait for it, logic.
Crimson makes so many logical fallacies, I've actually lost count categorizing them all.
Whoa. I mean, who knew that existed? Now, I'm not saying Gyno lacks logic. In fact, he probably is more realistic than many other MGTOW.
Well, I think I've made a new best friend.
But he does have a lot of weak points. Moving on to his next point, he's confused why people agree there's a feminized society, but they don't believe in a gynocentric society. Now, it's okay to believe in a feminized society and not believe in a gynocentric society. I think a lot of people disagree with the existence of gynocentrism and support the idea of a feminized society because they have a different definition of what a feminized society is.
Okay, I'm going to cut him off there. Does this not sound like huge amounts of doublethink? A feminized society, a society that treats women better, that puts the females first. A gynocentric society, a society that puts women first. He really is splitting hairs.
To me, a feminized society is a society that supports feminism, and I define feminism as pushing towards the equal rights of women in a legal sense. In the future, if you ask someone a question like this, define what gynocentrism and define what a feminized society are. Not everyone holds the same definitions as you, and to assume everyone does is just unrealistic. Now, you then...
I will fully concede this point. I didn't define in this video what a gynocentric society, but the word gyno means women, feminized means female. I honestly, he really is just splitting hairs with his doublethink.
Go on to claim that women have more rights than men. Really? Really?
Really? Yes. And if you don't think that's true, then you're fully retarded.
One right that a woman has that a man does not.
Reproductive rights. Women can even steal a man's sperm, get pregnant, get child support. Women can have sex with a minor and then take him to wait till he's 18 and then get him for child support. Women can date someone, have their sperm frozen, steal their sperm, have it frozen, wait a couple years, get inseminated, then get him for child support. A woman can provide a blowjob, use that man's sperm, get her pregnant, get the guy on the hook for child support.
You could argue that there may be some bias towards men by some judges, but I don't see any legal right that a woman has that a man does not.
Honestly, this is why you're not an MRA. Like, Crimson, you're really embarrassing yourself. Like, admittedly, you should never interrupt an opponent when they're making a mistake, but the biggest emotion that I hold is empathy. And at the moment, I'm just absolutely cringing. It's just so embarrassing. Trouble with anti-MGTOW, they're just an embarrassment. They're just a joke. Like my channel's a joke. It's just a bit of fun. However, my videos have solid arguments and reality. All he has is gynocentrism.
In countries like the U.S., for example. You know, such a thing is illegal, and there would probably be a lawsuit if a certain group had more rights than another. It just doesn't make any sense.
Oh, Crimson, you're just so embarrassing. It's just absolutely ridiculous. I don't even know how many videos, how many books you'd need to read to educate yourself. Like, seriously, Crimson, I don't know. I've been thinking about you a lot over the last couple of months, and I think I might give you like $100, and you can buy multiple books. I'll be telling you the books, but maybe I even, I don't know, wire you the money through PayPal, whatever. Get you to buy these books because you're just so embarrassing. MGTOW are just writing down what reality are and then telling other people because no one seems to be seeing it for some unknown reason. The reason I crudely come to is they're all fucking gyno cucks. They're just like, nah, women are perfect, women are good, women do no evil.
MGTOW are writing reality?
Writing down reality. There's a distinction, as in, I go out into the world, I observe, then I make a video. And then I watch some other MGTOW creators and they all make a video. Like, for example, in divorces, women get your house. What kind of fucking socialist bullshit are it? Women literally make men homeless in the hundreds of thousands every year. And everyone's just like, what? Bullshit.
What the fuck? How does that work? You better explain this to me. I'm confused now. And honestly, the only thing I'm not seeing is actual proof that any of the stuff you were saying is even true. Earlier, you claim women have more rights than men, yet you don't even bother to name at least one example.
The whole point of the challenge video was to stoke the fires. It was a trap. I purposely... I used to have a speech impediment or a speaking issue. I now choose all my words exceptionally carefully, and when I don't say something, I'm playing 4D chess. So, and also, it was a challenge. The whole point is there's got to be a little bit of to and fro, and the whole point of a challenge isn't to lay out concrete arguments and evidence. The challenge was on anti-MGTOW, to debunk MGTOW.
Now, what's amazing, this is just a wow here. Shaming language, really.
I have no issue with shaming language, and I've done a full video about it. For example, when I, or anyone, acts retarded, you call them out. As in, you are a retard.
I mean, that's not very MGTOW. Here, MGTOW are, angry at women for using shaming language.
Yeah, but what you don't understand is they only have shaming language. They have no arguments. They have no facts. They just have emotion and shame language. Like, for example, why don't you want to get married? Because it's an awful deal. Oh no, it's because you're a incel virgin loser who wouldn't even attract a woman.
But then you call people cucks just because they disagree with your version of reality, and somehow that automatically means that they think women are perfect.
Again, he can't really follow words very carefully. So firstly, my channel name is Gyno Cuck. Like, it can't be that bad. Even you refer to me as Cuck. Oh, you use my channel name. Here, it's just, Crimson, you're just not being very intelligent. You're just not connecting all the dots. So, what I was crudely mentioning is, how can millions of people be unable to clearly see reality, clearly see dynamics? Now, my crude explanation is they're gynocentric cucks. They've had over 50 years of feminist indoctrination and social enforcement, and they just cannot see reality. Doesn't matter how many different ways you present it. And then a few of us have actually seen reality. We start talking about reality, and we're the conspiracy theorists with no evidence.
Oh, God forbid someone has a different opinion than you. Oh my gosh, the MGTOW, the anti-MGTOW can't accept reality. Oh, boo-hoo! I mean, come on.
Yeah, I do use a lot of humour. He's finally getting it.
I'm just dying here. What the heck? Come on, just stop. Stop. Just stop jumping to conclusions, please, and stop with the shaming language. That's so femme.
Single mothers are cancer on society, but everyone's like, oh, she's trying to raise a kid by herself. She chose that. She chose to screw her kid over.
Okay, this argument is so fucked up on so many levels. How are single mothers a cancer to society?
Excellent. Crimson jumped into the biggest trap I laid in this video. So I laid this huge trap. So I'm trying to think what's bigger than a bear trap. But basically, I absolutely 4D chessed him here. So single mothers are cancer on society. This is a fact of reality. However, we hear Crimson jump to his gynocentric defense. So I'm going to let him do. I'm going to let him speak a bit more, and then I'm going to play some funny clips.
Have you ever tried to raise a kid by yourself? And honestly, I don't think any woman's just being a single mother because they want to be.
Oh, here we hear him, full of shit.
Honestly, from my personal experience, and I know I don't like to use personal experience.
Yep, completely destroyed his point earlier.
But this personal experience does disprove your point that all single mothers are cancer, because again, this proves how there are exceptions. And some of the bravest and kindest people that I have ever known are single mothers, and they're trying to give their kids the best future they can. Yes, maybe there are some single mothers out there in society, but let's not stereotype groups.
Wow, over 9,000 gynocentric cut confirmed. Case solved.
I think MGTOW seem to be needing a reality check from this nonsense. Especially when you don't even bother to prove this point. The hypocrisy is real. Here, you want anti-MGTOW to give you statistics, yet I have not seen you bring up one statistic to prove any of your points in this video.
That is absolutely correct. And whilst I can concede this is valid criticism, the whole point, it was just a challenge video and to poke anti-MGTOW into doing a response. That's why I left the door open. That's why I left myself open in many areas for you to make it easy. Because if I made it too difficult, like, you're the only person who responded out of every single anti-MGTOW that exists. And this video has been up for an entire year.
Now, single mothers do not always choose to be single. Have you ever considered that maybe there are reasons why some mothers choose to be single? Maybe it's because they want to escape an abusive husband to protect the kids.
Oh, now Crimson has confirmed he's a feminist. This is 100% bitch logic. This is feminist speak. So what he's referring to is deadbeat dads. So it's not the woman's fault she's a piece of shit and she's a single mother. It's actually because men are actually all evil.
And in some cases, it's not even her fault. There are men who leave their wives to run away and sleep with other women. I guess it's the woman's fault. You know, she's evil. Or, what about a mom who becomes a single mother after her husband dies? Yeah, it's her fault. It's her fault for being a single mother. There's actually one story where there's a single mother who had 8 children and she desperately tried to perform CPR to save her husband. I guess she's a cancer to society too. She's a failure who should have tried harder to save her husband. What a despicable and disgusting human being for trying to save someone she loves.
Okay, so as Crimson has given us loads of ammo, we're just going to keep the train rolling. We're going to keep it rolling. Okay. Now, what we're going to watch is a clip from 2016 by the conservative pundit Ann Coulter, who wrote a book called Demonic. And in the book, it had various sources, studies, peer-reviewed journals, and basically I'm going to play quite a lot of clips so you can contrast the Crimson in one of his videos said he's not a woman. So I'm going to contrast Crimson's responses to me with the responses of these females.
single fatherhood or deadbeat dads.
What do you say to women who say you are demonizing single moms?
All I'm doing is citing statistics. It's what works is a nuclear family. Now, sometimes that isn't going to happen. I mean, I do make a point of saying.
It's not going to happen. I mean, that's part of the reason why I'm hot under the collar.
Well,
there's so many great moms that are trying to be mom and dad to their kids. I know that they cannot be emotionally mom and dad.
Well,
but they really are going out of their way to provide for their kids.
Look, it's one thing, as I say, a single mother is something different from a divorced mother. Single mother specifically refers to a woman who, A, gets pregnant out of wedlock, and B, decides for narcissistic reasons, I'm going to keep this child for myself, because if she cares what's best for the child, she will give the child up for adoption, and that is a fact.
No, you think that's very judgmental? I think
it's a fact.
I think you're talking about maybe the Casey Anthonys of the world, you know, where there's all this neglect that we can all see. Obviously, the jury did not see it, but there's a lot of controversy with mothers that are that way, that go out and party, that do this, that do that, and are not really responsible for their children. But a lot of single moms are being responsible with their children.
And yet, the statistics still are, if you look at it from the end of the spectrum of who ends up in jail, who ends up a murderer, who ends up a teenage runaway, who ends up getting pregnant out of wedlock herself, who ends up a rapist, about 70%, according to both the Village Voice and all these conservative pro-family groups, are going to be the children of single mothers. I mean, that is simply a fact.
Yep, simply a fact. And this has been extremely well known and well documented for years. The thing is, we have historical accounts of bastards. Everyone, like, bastard used to be a terrible word because everyone would avoid a bastard, because that's what we're actually talking about. However, this word has been taken out of sort of public use and circulation on purpose because they're so glorified. Now I'm gonna try to find some other great clips. Let's give it another go. It might not be perfect, by the way.
Women are very emotional. They're extremely emotional. So whatever they feel is correct to them. So let me go back here so we can hear Ann Coulter's point from the beginning. I didn't mean to interrupt her.
And sometimes Derek Jeter strikes out. And yet, he's still a great baseball player because we look at overall how many times at bats, how many times a home run. When you have 70% of the children in juvenile delinquent institutions coming from single-parent homes, yes, I'm sure some single mothers do a terrific job, and I'm sure there are some two parents who do a terrible job. And yet, the statistics are the statistics.
And we have more from the audience.
You keep saying, you know, statistics, but anybody can make up a statistic.
That's why there's so many of them, from both the left and from the right, and for 30 years
Where do you
now.
think it's okay to say all this?
Okay,
I mean,
you know what? You may as well stand up.
My mother was a single mom, and I'm getting, like, emotional.
Yeah. What did I tell you?
Yeah, just like Crimson.
You're saying what you've...
What did I tell you guys? What did I tell you? Didn't I say... like I said, I didn't watch this yet. They use emotion, guys. They use emotion.
Yeah, see, Rotten TV agrees Crimson's emotional.
Feel.
I can't talk now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, you may as well stand up and say, I'm a smoker and I'm very upset about the smoking statistics, and don't you tell me about lung cancer. The statistics are the statistics.
Nice. She's talking about something important to her.
So is smoking.
Yo, Father Albert, man. Stop being such a cuck, Father Albert. No one wants to... He's a nice guy. See, this is why nice guys finish last, alright? You guys stop being so nice. Don't be like Father Albert. Well, I'm pretty sure he has some good qualities, but supporting this, again, he might just be doing this because this is a majority of his viewer base, so he's being a good businessman, but still, come on, man. You gotta stop doing this.
Smoking, and people dying of smoking, and so is people being raised by single mothers.
I don't understand.
Standing up and saying, I'm a single mother and you can't say that is not an argument.
Tell her about your mom.
I didn't say that I was a single mother. I come from a single family.
Okay,
I'm not a rapist. I'm not a murderer.
Don't yell at me about what the smoking statistics are.
We're not talking about smoking, lady. We're talking about single parents. We're talking about something far more important than smoking, I feel.
Yes, as I said, it's more damaging to a child.
So for you to even put those two together is ridiculous. I know you're saying this stuff, but do you think about it before you say it?
Yes.
No, just shoot off at the mouth.
Yeah. She thinks. The other woman in the crowd, she doesn't think. It's all emotion.
It's a chapter of my last book. It has the studies there if you're interested. It is study after study. No, I'm just shooting off the top of my head what comes into my mind.
Yeah, Crimson is shooting off at the mouth what comes into his head, because he has, whilst I didn't provide any stats or figures, it's just such common knowledge. Like that video of Ann Coulter, or just Ann Coulter in general, that's 3 years old now. It had millions of views.
Or what about women who becomes a single mother when her husband dies in combat? I guess she's a piece of shit and a piece of cancer too. You know, because if she didn't let her husband serve his country, he could be alive right now. Just one evil and despicable person. In fact, I want to go a step further. I think we should lock up all these evil single mothers. Put them in jail where they belong. I'm just sorry, but I'm at a loss for words for your lack of empathy for single mothers.
Okay, so just to quickly jump in. So Crimson said perhaps we should lock up all the single mothers, and obviously he was quite busy making probably one of the biggest straw men I've ever heard. Because the job, when we're talking about statistics, Crimson loves to say he likes statistics, but basically when they contradict his worldview, he just pretends that they don't exist, and then he'll just use an anecdote about how some of the strongest, bravest, most wonderful people are single mothers. So I think, based on what Crimson said, he probably came from a single mother. He's dating a single mother. He loves single mothers. So he likes cancer in society. He likes the fact that 70% of all the criminals from single mothers. He likes that 70% of all the rapists come from single mothers. He likes the fact that the majority of all school shooters come from single mothers and destroyed families. He likes the fact that most of the homicides, especially in the black community, came from all the single mothers. He enjoys these facts. He loves it. Now, whilst I'm straw manning Crimson a bit, these are the facts. This is reality. So basically, these are the consequences of women's choices. Now, I'd prefer if there was 70% less criminals, 70% less rapists. But in order to do that, we have to get rid of single mothers. It's a fact. Now, I'm forever the optimist, and I hope I get destroyed, and I'll get absolutely destroyed, and then I'll have to become an anti-MGTOW.
Well, I think with all the logic bombs I dropped on you, I would say your bullshit has been thoroughly debunked.
Ah, so cringy.
It should be obvious to everyone that I gave you a compelling anti-MGTOW counter-argument to this video. But don't worry about having to become an anti-MGTOW. The good news for you is we don't expect you to join us, even if we are right. Unlike MGTOW, we don't expect people to join us if we win an argument. We respect your right to choose to accept reality or not.
Ah, Crimson, you sometimes lack a sense of humour. Do you forget I'm English?
Well, that was a nice video, but now let's give you a compelling anti-MGTOW argument that you asked for. First of all, for an argument to be strong, you don't always need to use statistics. Sometimes arguments are so bad, like MGTOW, that you just have to prove that you can just prove how illogical they are. I don't need to use stats to show why 1 + 1 doesn't equal 3. And I certainly don't need to use stats to prove why circular logic isn't logical. Here is one of the many good anti-MGTOW arguments that I will use. The reason why MGTOW sucks is because it is not even realistic, because many of the times it fails to logically prove its points, and furthermore, MGTOW is self-destructive towards men.
Okay, I'm going to have to go back and replay that last little bit. 1 minute.
I don't need to use stats to show why 1 + 1 doesn't equal 3. And I certainly don't need to use stats to prove why circular logic isn't logical. Here is one of the many good anti-MGTOW arguments that I will use. The reason why MGTOW sucks is because it is not even realistic, because many of the times it fails to logically prove its points, and
so this is a logical fallacy. I can't remember his exact name, but basically it's the fallacy of I haven't seen it, therefore it doesn't exist. So let's take Turd-Flegged Monkey for example. So Turd-Flegged Monkey has made maybe over 2,000 videos where he's explained in the most greatest amount of detail every single MGTOW argument there is, with evidence, argumentation, and sources. However, Crimson is just completely ignorant of this. And the trouble with this argument is it just falls flat in reality. Let's say MGTOW never existed. Why are so many men not getting married? Why are men across the world dropping out of the workforce? Why are men individually making almost looks like collective choices? They're not bothered. Like even teenagers are going their own way. He has no explanation. And when I talk about gynocentric society, okay, oh, it's not gynocentric, it's feminized. They're doing it because of the feminized society. Can you not put two and two together? Come on, Crimson.
Furthermore, MGTOW is self-destructive towards men. My first point is many MGTOW make claims that are not true based on weak logic.
That's yet to be seen.
Many MGTOW believe that women will most likely divorce you because most women initiate divorces, and there's a statistic that says 70% of women initiate divorce.
Okay, so if I get married today, will I be married forever, or is the chances of that lifetime marriage next to non-existent?
Or I could argue that most men are rapists because most women are raped by men.
Here we see that Crimson has a serious problem with mathematics. Just because I've looked it up in the past and it gets a little bit tricky. Let's just say, I'm not going to look up the rape statistics of the United States, but let's just make a figure. Let's just say there was 10,000 rapes. How many divorces do you think there was in that year? And there is every single year. The thing is, we're looking at numbers. So we know rape is an exceptionally rare crime in general. However, we also know that divorce is exceptionally common to the point that you have men urging other men never get married. Never, ever, ever, ever get married.
Do you see the problem here? MGTOW are jumping to conclusions and not taking other factors into account. To further support my argument that MGTOW consistently fail to deliver good evidence to support their claims, you are the prime example. You failed to prove gynocentrism by twisting the definition of chivalry, which further illustrates the lack of logic found in the MGTOW community.
This is such a ridiculous self-own by Crimson. He really embarrassed himself with the whole chivalry argument.
Now, when I watch some MGTOW videos, some people use Wikipedia as a citation for hypergamy, which calls into question the validity of their sources.
Okay, let's have a little look. Let's have a little read. What's this? Can't prove hypergamy. Best clinical psychologist in the world. Also, I have used Wikipedia is a perfectly valid source. I actually really love Wikipedia because anyone and everyone can contribute to it. So for example, if there is a mistake, error or correction, people jump on that shit straight away. And the thing with hypergamy is I dedicated to you over 1 hour of content where I gave you multiple different case studies for hypergamy. For example, parental fraud. So, for example, a woman has sex with multiple people. She's dating one guy. She says to the one guy, "Oh, it is your child, ha ha ha." Turns out it isn't his child. He has been cucked. This has been happening throughout all of human history, and the statistics are between 0.8 and 30% of all births in the United States are cucks. Parental fraud has been done. Now, we can explain this with hypergamy. So what the woman has done is she's found the best provider, in her opinion, the beta, and then she's found the alpha Chad, who she actually wants to have the kid with, and then she's had the kid and she's got the beta to provide. Hypergamy gives us a scientific model because we can now use this model to predict the future. Will this happen in the future? Yes, it will. Will we have the explanation? Yes, we will.
MGTOW have yet to prove hypergamy because they have no reliable sources.
Well, it depends. If you're just going to ignore reality completely and ignore my 1 hour of content, like, it's absolutely ridiculous. Let's have a little read. Let's have a read of some of my little titles. Why they got to keep changing everything? So, prostitutes and porn stars. That was a case study into hypergamy, looking at the two extremes. Gold diggers, hypergamy gap, groupies, parental fraud.
That prove it. And they don't even have a scientist who endorses the idea that women in general have a biological tendency to always choose the man with the most resources above all other factors like personality, empathy, and etc.
Again, he's making an appeal to academia, an appeal to authority, an appeal to popularity, and also you're just denying basic reality. So gold diggers don't exist. That's the question I keep asking Andy McDowell. Explain to me why gold diggers are overwhelmingly women. Why, if someone says the word gold digger, do you immediately associate it with females? Can you name a single male gold digger? Has such a thing ever existed? Or even so, why are they in such insanely small quantities? And the hypergamy test. If I gave you $1 million, would you be able to attract considerably more females than you can today with the amount of money you've got? Look at Mark Zuckerberg. Do you think he would get a wife like that without his money? It's barely even human.
If not even scientists support your ideas, it really calls into question the legitimacy of your group.
No, it really just speaks volumes to the amount of logical fallacies you can make.
MGTOW themselves aren't reliable sources for life advice because they lack credibility themselves.
I don't think you've got the information to judge because most of the MGTOW content creators are anonymous. So let's just speak to your own bias.
Many MGTOW encourage, or they don't speak out against, the men who support MGTOW monkism. For those who don't know what MGTOW monkism is, it's the idea that men should not have relationships with women of any kind. And more extreme versions believe that MGTOW men should not have any interaction with women, or they should limit interaction with women as much as possible. Now, not only is this sexist, but it's completely irrational, and it ruins a man's chance at finding a happy relationship.
So, I'm just going to quickly replay that just for actual dramatic effect.
The legitimacy of your group. MGTOW themselves aren't reliable sources for life advice because they lack credibility themselves. Many MGTOW encourage, or they don't speak out against, the men who support MGTOW monkism. For those who don't know what MGTOW monkism is, it's the idea that men should not have relationships with women of any kind. And more extreme versions believe that MGTOW men should not have any interaction with women.
Yep, that is perfectly reasonable and sound advice in a feminized, gynocentric society. A woman's word can be the end of your existence.
Where they should limit interaction with women as much as possible. Now, not only is this sexist, but it's completely irrational and it ruins a man's chance at finding a happy relationship.
So this is why no one takes anti-MGTOW seriously. Me Too's not a thing. Just random men being accused by random women. It's not a thing. Sexual harassment policies in work. You know, in the UK, if I compliment a woman, that can be classed as sexual harassment. We also in the UK, I have to look it up. We have what's called cohesive control. Terribly sorry. Basically, if I do not give my money, if I restrict my own money to my partner, that is a form of domestic violence, even though the other partner may not work. So once that came into effect, I went monk. Now I own a business, and so far this year I've made in sales £1.2 million, and with my current figures, I'm going to turn over £4 million in sales. Well, probably over 4 million, maybe like 4.4. Now, I earn a lot of money. Now, if I restrict the money the female wants, she by any limit, which is reasonable or unreasonable, could then find myself in a lot of problems because I I would be classed as a domestic abuser. I'm using the fact that I'm not letting her spend my money as a form of control. Just absolutely fantastic.
Some of the MGTOW monks and other MGTOW who are not monks argue that women are trying to steal your money.
Yeah, because women never get money in divorces.
I mean, this sounds like Hitler's Germany. Don't talk to the Jews. They're out to steal our money. Ooh. I mean, you can't prove that most women will steal your money.
Okay, point me out the women who don't get money after a divorce. There should be millions, shouldn't there? There's been millions of divorces in the last couple of years. Should be easy to find the source where women don't get all your money.
Some MGTOW don't even take into account a person's character and social values in a society.
So this is the trouble when you don't understand generalizations. We're talking about millions of people. And again, all these so-called good Christian or whatever special snowflake women, when it comes to getting a divorce, they all turn into the devil. I actually term it relentless evil. Because they don't just become a bit evil, they become relentless.
A person's character and the values in a society really do affect chances of someone stealing your stuff.
Yeah, and it's been socially encouraged and permissible for women to destroy their own family and steal all the men's money. It's so enforced and accepted that it's just the norm that a man's wealth goes to the women. That's just how it is now.
Now, men cannot have a fulfilling life if they are plagued by prejudice such as this. Prejudice is something that is irrational and colors our view of reality, and being unrealistic and stereotypical can we form hateful views towards others. If we start to hate certain groups of people, then they will treat us poorly, and if they treat us poorly, we will feel worse, and then we will treat them worse, and in response, and the cynical cycle continues.
That's broadly true, but when, for example, single mothers are committing mass evil on a scale rarely seen in history, and people start calling them out for their evilness, because do you know what I was saying about the 70% end up as criminals? They're ruining the children's futures. Ruining a child's future is probably one of the worst crimes you can do against humanity. Whole of humanity suffers forever.
MGTOW is also hurtful to men because it has a lot of toxicity in the community.
Oh, here we go. Crimson confirmed that he's a feminist and he's a female. So I'm too lazy to look it up, but I'm pretty sure if I looked up the origin of the word toxicity, I'm sure it was first used by women to tone police men into stop being masculine.
There are videos calling women sluts, whores, and etc.
Okay, and you saying that the average woman doesn't have considerably more sex than she did 100 years ago. Oh, they have a lot more sexual partners. So if we sort of compare to 100 years ago, women today are more slutty. And as we all know, women have many more sexual partners than men. Oh, what's that? Yeah, women are more slutty than men.
And these MGTOW videos get a lot of thumbs up. So clearly a significant amount of people in the MGTOW community support this.
This is a terrible, terrible argument. Are you new to the internet, Crimson?
And many MGTOW use shaming language, such as calling people cucks, simps, and etc. for not agreeing with their points.
You're not really correct on this point at all. So, like for example, if I start saying Crimson's just a simp or a cuck, it's because of the positions that you hold. So, for example, when you started crying when I called single mothers cancer, what can I say? Gyno cuck, simp. Like, you're wrong on the facts. You're wrong on the. So this is it. You get destroyed on the facts, then you get shamed, and then hopefully you might learn.
Just look at the channel comments or other anti-MGTOW channels like Forbidden, and take a look at the MGTOW comments they get on their channels.
Ah, Crimson, was you born yesterday and you're new to the internet? You cannot use comment sections as reliable, valid sources. The comment sections are also always been cancer. I remember I used to make just normal guide videos, and people would be posting suck a dick and die and all crazy stuff. I'm like, it was just a guide video. I didn't say anything. It's just a game guide video.
There's hate, toxicity, shaming language. It's obvious that toxicity exists in the MGTOW community.
Hang on, wait a sec.
And I have yet to see a video made by MGTOW that addresses this important issue.
It's because it's not an issue, because we're not females, we're not feminists.
MGTOW also do not condemn those who decide to ghost, or guys who isolate themselves from society.
Okay, before I go on any further, before he talks about ghosting, I'll quickly backtrack about him being feminist. So, the reason why he's being a feminist is it's called tone policing. So, it's all about people behaving or acting within certain parameters. Now, let's take a guy who got cucked, where there's got to be rough statistics. Let's say 100,000 guys get cucked every single year in the UK or in America. So, do you think if a guy got cucked, what do you think he's going to do? He's going to watch some MGTOW content, he's going to post some stuff. And these are mean words on the internet. You and all the other anti-MGTOW fail the reality challenge. You can't point out a single MGTOW who has ever done anything bad to a female demonstrably. And because you can't do that, all you do have is mean words on the internet.
The problem with this is, from a scientific perspective, scientifically speaking, isolation deprives us of our human need for connection.
Oh, Crimson, this is another cell phone. Come on.
And isolation can lead to anxiety, and it hinders our ability to deal with stuff. Instead of leaving society, men should join a community of empathetic people who can help them succeed. Humanity grows when we work together. Thanks for helping men, MGTOW.
Okay, so Crimson doesn't understand the concept of ghosting. So ghosting is when you can ghost in plain sight or you can ghost off the grid. So things are so bad for some men. Let's say, for example, you got cucked to a kid who wasn't yours and you don't want to pay child support. So ghosting, like as in going off the grid, might be a viable option. So no one knows where you are, so you don't have to pay for child support. Excellent. And also just the other various feminized society, the other various social ailments, social illnesses. Perhaps instead of men committing suicide, which is what 30,000 every single year, Crimson, perhaps ghosting could be a way for these men to ensure their survival. Perhaps that's exactly what they need. And it's so smart. Oh, isolation. In prison, one of the punishments they give you is isolation. And what Crimson doesn't point out is isolation without stimulation can lead to brain damage.
So in conclusion, men shouldn't join MGTOW because MGTOW is a group that is toxic and a group that does not actually serve the best interests of men.
So here we have Crimson confirming himself as a feminist. Now what, and the reason why I say he's a feminist or a female is he's creating rules to reject you. Now if he was a man, he would accept you for who you are and all your emotions and everything. If he generally wanted to help, like for example, he's saying, I won't help toxic men. Well, I don't know if you know, there's at the moment state endorsed violence against men through the prism of women painting targets on their back, and some people left some mean comments. Now what you need to do, if you actually care and want to help these men, is listen past their anger. Why are they angry? Why are they upset? Why? What happened to these men? Are these concerns legitimate? Do you know fucking men prefer to kill themselves than ask for help? So I think their concerns are probably fairly legitimate. Because no, men don't play the victim game. That's why it's such a... surprised you haven't brought that up because you're such a feminist.
Anyways, these are some of my anti-MGTOW arguments, and I can list 1,000 reasons why MGTOW ideas are just so bad.
Yep, I'm sure you can list 1,000 reasons why you don't understand anything. I'm sure you can, Crimson.
But this should give my fellow viewers and gynocucks something to think about. I know you're going to disagree with this, and you're probably going to say you don't understand MGTOW, or that's not the real definition of whatever. Don't give me the no true Scotsman fallacy nonsense. Instead, prove how my points are wrong, or give solid evidence to prove MGTOW is correct. To be honest, if anyone should be challenged, it's MGTOW. Now that I've completed your challenge, here's my challenge for you, gynocuck. Give me a compelling argument of why I should be a MGTOW by disproving my anti-MGTOW argument I just gave you. To make a compelling argument, you have to have an argument that uses sufficient evidence and good, solid logic to prove your points. Now, as we can see, this video proves why anti-MGTOW is the truth. Unlike the fake news MGTOW media, we use sufficient evidence and condemn things that are harmful towards the well-being of men.
False.
It is obvious that the points made by gynocucks seem to come from a bitter and biased attitude towards women, which could explain why we see a lot of
Nice gynocentrism.
logical fallacies such as his overgeneralizations of single mothers.
Oh, it's a logical fallacy, is it? Facts and reality? Okay.
I don't hate gynocuck. What I do hate is the fallacy that clearly embodies the MGTOW movement and many of his arguments. If you like this video, give it a like and share the truth with
Okay, so just in closing. So in closing, I've already made a video which is about an hour long, educating Crimson, because oh my god, Crimson needs so much help. He just lacks so much information. It's just where to start. The trouble is, Crimson, like, time is the most precious resource in the universe, and time's relative. I'm never getting the time back. Well, I think Crimson's pretty cool and all. I do just wonder, like, is it worth it? Is anti-MGTOW a waste of time? Literally everyone in the MGTOW community just says anti-MGTOW is just a joke. And Crimson, unfortunately, you're just a joke. You could be Pepe. You're living in clown world.